in Eretz Yisrael, and also outside of Eretz Yisrael, many people celebrate BiShvat. And I now kind of remember my youth in Baltimore, and at Yeshivat Chofetz Chaim at the TA in Baltimore. Every BiShvat, we would get a bag of fruit. And once a year, I would eat a carob. And that was the only time I would ever see a carob, would be in that bag that I got at the Talmudical Academy that had a dried fig and a carob. And I would always ask, what's with a carob? Like, what is this carob? And they would say, oh, this is a carob that came from Israel. And it would be a special carob. Now that I'm a little older, I'm not really sure that that carob really came from Israel, but it was successful in instilling within me the specialness of knowing that there is a carob that comes from Eretz Yisrael. Today, when we celebrate BiShvat, my personal custom is to have 15 different kinds of fruit. Some have 30, but I have just 15 different kinds of fruit, and all of them are from Eretz Yisrael. I don't have to have a real or fake carob that comes from Eretz Yisrael. All of the fruit comes from Eretz Yisrael. And this is the greatest blessing and the greatest sign that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has appeased himself with the Jewish people. Mark Twain writes that he's never seen a land that was so desolate as the land that he saw when he transversed Eretz Yisrael. And he said that he would go for a whole day riding without seeing even a tree or a bush. Today, there is just such plentiness in Eretz Yisrael that we see that the blessing is here. The concept of a green line, not everybody remembers, but the green line is called the green line because it's a green line. And that when you take an aerial photo of Eretz Yisrael or a satellite view of Eretz Yisrael, you see a green line. Every place where the Jewish people were until the 6-Day War is green. And afterwards, it was brown. Thankfully, thanks to the settlements in Eretz Yisrael, there is no longer an aerial photo of a green line. And today, the green line is just called a green line. But Baruch Hashem, as the Jewish people went into Yehuda and Shomron and the other places in Eretz Yisrael, they brought with them blessing. And even the Arabs who plant have blessing as a result of the fact that the Jewish people are there. It's very interesting. When the Jewish people were in Gaza, in Hevel Katif, the annual rainfall of Israel increased in that area for those 20 years that the Jewish people were there. And as soon as they left all of the technology and all of the know-how with the people who ran their businesses, the Arabs who were there. And as soon as they left, they weren't able to replicate it in any way. And also the annual rainfall went and diminished as the Jewish people left. It's very interesting. We have an opposite story. When the Jews began to inhabit Be'er Tuvia, it's just on the watershed where if you have 50 millimeters of rain, that's not enough to grow wheat. 60 is. And the Arabs made fun of them when they came and they said, you're not going to be able to grow wheat there. And they were able to plant wheat. And the annual rainfall went from 50 to 60. And then they were able to grow wheat. And to this day, the rainfall has increased. And the shed where it's 50 millimeters has gotten further south as the Jewish agriculture has increased. Here we see a direct relationship between the Jewish people coming to Eretz Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael coming to the Jewish people. When I think of Tu BiShvat, I think of fruit. And there's a very interesting relationship between fruit and Eretz Yisrael. I remember Rav Tzvi telling us about the Bach, who talks about the blessing that we recite after eating fruit in Eretz Yisrael. And there's a difference between eating fruit from Eretz Yisrael or eating fruit from outside of Eretz Yisrael. If you eat fruit from Eretz Yisrael, then you say, Al peroteha, the fruit of Eretz Yisrael. And if you eat fruit outside of Eretz Yisrael, then you just say, perot. Well, when you think about it, this turns the bracha of ala michya or al michyata into a barometer. Okay, where do you say ala perot and where don't you? There's an interesting story brought down by Professor Yoel Elitzur in his book Mekomo Shel Parsha. He writes that he was in the army in Lebanon, and he ate a grape that was growing where he was stationed, and then he had to decide what bracha to make after eating the grape. Should he make a bracha ala perot for fruit that grew outside of Eretz Yisrael, or should he make a bracha al peroteha, a bracha for the fruit that grows in Eretz Yisrael? And he naturally decided that he would say al haaretz v'al peroteha, because Lebanon is an intrinsic part of Eretz Yisrael, and the grapes that grow in Lebanon are growing in Eretz Yisrael. And just making the bracha of al haaretz v'al peroteha, that in itself helps us imbue the proper relationship and love that we're supposed to have for the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael that is manifest in the kedusha of its fruit. It's interesting. We have the same question regarding fruit that grew in Aza. What if you're a soldier and you eat a grape that grows in Aza? What bracha do you make on this grape? And again, Rabbi Yaakov Ariel says that we make a bracha ala aretz va'al peroteha, that on grapes that grow in Aza, we make a bracha, and this simple bracha of just making a bracha for the fruit that grows in Eretz Yisrael kind of gives us a focus and an understanding, oh, this is Eretz Yisrael. And this simple bracha on fruit is a magnificent teacher of the relationship the Jewish people have to Eretz Yisrael.